Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Here we go. Mayor Chad Bachynski is with Chad. It's a Friday. Is it Christmas party season for you as well?
Hey guys, yeah, it's ramping up. Christmas party season has begun for sure.
You have such a tough spot, and we talked to you. I think it was your first week on the job. You got a young family, you're a young guy, and all that, and then now everything that's coming down with the budget in Regina. I don't want to get too deep into politics here, although we can do that on the SportsCage from time to time. I want to talk about athletics, how it affects the athletes in the city. Now, the Optimist and the Kinsman arenas. I got kids that play in them every week almost, it seems. I'm dropping one of them off there. The city is looking at maybe going away from these two facilities. What can you tell us about that? Tell us about the savings that the city would incur.
Sure. I mean, really, the core of it is around the process. So what we've done is council has asked administration to take a different approach this year. And so why we're seeing things like the Optimist and Kinsman on this list, among other items, we've seen the Floral Conservatory and fire halls and that, is because of this process. So the original intent was to try and provide more transparency of what kind of items, when admin does a lot of work behind the scenes, what were some of those things that were above and below the line that would come forward to council. This year we've tried to put everything on the table to say these are all the things that are just discussed, and that we're putting it in front to show what is the cost of delivering those services to our residents. So now, one of the unintended consequences is when a referral motion that was made to say what would a minus 5% look like. That's why we're seeing some of these drastic options on this list. So from my perspective, there are a lot of things that I have absolutely zero interest in touching, including a lot of our recreation facilities and rinks. But that's why we're seeing them on that list. It's not a decision that's made. It's simply a result of asking for that information from some of my council members, and that's why we're seeing them there.
Chad, being from Saskatoon, Harry being from Saskatoon, when I moved to Regina, the one thing I always thought was very interesting was how all the rinks were tied to the city. In Saskatoon, there's a number of private rinks and facilities, which seems to work all right. Now, this might be a little bit of a tougher question, but there is nothing wrong with, if it goes forward, the city saying, hey, we have a chance here to maybe offload these rinks. We're going to get out a little bit of the rink business. If a private, company, private investors wanted to come forth and run these rinks.
Absolutely. No, I totally hear you and totally agree. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we don't arbitrarily take something away before we have something in place. So I think what I would be more comfortable with and absolutely in favor of is if we, put something out to say, is anybody interested in taking that on, to make sure that we don't reduce or lose rink capacity in our city. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. That is definitely a viable model. It's been proven. I just want to make sure that we're not taking away before we make sure we have that rink capacity in place, knowing how utilized those rinks are in our community.
This might be a tougher one to answer, and I know you got to kind of go at things cautiously here, but let's look at those two facilities, and we're familiar with them. Harry, you're up in Saskatoon. It'd be a lot like the Lions Arena in Saskatoon. There is a ton of room. I'm no architect. A ton of room on both ends of those rinks to maybe add on dressing rooms. If it was a private, like the Shro Arena in Saskatoon, I think they're upwards of 50 dressing rooms for rec hockey, which of course frees up ice time at the city facilities for the young kids and the minor hockeys. Like, Chad, would it be that laborish and to kind of go through a number of different hoops to have a private company maybe expand these rinks and be able to build on some rooms?
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. And I think that's why part of this process, although again an unintended consequence of stress about this being on the list. I think the good news is I would say after this budget process, I would be interested in exploring what that could look like. Like you said, if that was to go to a private entity, what could that look like, and what kind of expansion or additional capacity could that lend itself to? So I don't know. I don't have that answer as to what land use and all those types of things. But I think you're on point in asking of what could we see there, and this at least opens up that dialogue and that conversation, and I would be interested in exploring that after we get through this budget process.
Okay. The one number when Sharky was on here the other day, and I think we read it up and all that, was about $130,000 in operating costs, maybe saving it for each rink. Is it something around there?
That sounds somewhere in there. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah. Something like that.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to bring you on to talk about, because as soon as I saw it, and everyone was up in arms, and again, I don't want anyone to get mad at me, and I'm sure they are, they're going to text me in, is the outdoor rinks. When I moved here to Regina, I found it actually odd that the city had their hands on every outdoor rink, where in Saskatoon, Harry, we grew up on them. They're all community owned, community run, associations, volunteers, all that, which a lot of times, and we all know, you have this volunteer guy and girl that it's a labor of love. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this might not be a bad thing to look at. And it might be a better situation when it comes to the outdoor rinks, because what the city is putting forth, like you talked about, Chad, it's not like you're going to shut all the outdoor rinks, put up cobblestones and trees in the middle of them, and no one can ever use them again.
Right, and I think you're exactly right, and I think it kind of goes back to my answer on the Kinsman and Optimist, where if that's an option to explore, maybe this opens the door to discuss that. But my biggest thing is that I want to make sure that those things that make our city a city, making sure that those rinks are available. Given the timing, to take away the funding for the city, who is currently ensuring that those rinks are up and running for our winter season, I don't want to see that go away. I don't want to see that go away at all. But is there a model where community members, and I've had people reach out. And say, don't close them. I'll take on making sure that we open the shack and that. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there. But again, it goes back to, I think as a council, we can work with the city to explore that with community members and community associations to potentially partner to maybe reduce the city's level of operating costs if some of our fantastic community members would want to step up and take on some of that.
Chad, I know you got a heart out here, and I know these are some hard questions to ask because you're just one guy. It's got a lot of processes to go to. You are the mayor, but it's not, you just make arbitrary decisions. If you did, I'd love to buy the rink. I know a couple other guys that are in, but no, I appreciate you taking some time. I'm sure we'll chat with you again as this process goes on, and I'm not blind or deaf to the fact that you guys are in a tough position with the city of Regina, so I appreciate you coming on here and taking some time.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys, and appreciate the time to talk this stuff out. And we'll be okay. We'll get through this, and I'm confident we'll have those services available for folks going forward.
Right.